Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Saturday, actually, instead of Friday, for our country roads, July 28th, 2018. And as I said, this is our weekly country roads with, of course, our great friend, Winston Shrout. How are you, Winston?
Well, I'm doing okay. Just a little bit tired. Well, like I say, this Lionsgate portal opened up, and if I was young, maybe it wouldn't affect me so much. But being an old guy, it just wearing me out. But that's good. That's good.
No, Winston, it kicked my butt too, so don't worry
Yeah,
about it. I'm not really. It's very intense energies. I mean,
yeah, it is. Uh-huh.
I did an interview yesterday with this YouTuber, Tim Emsley, and he talked about it because he knows a little bit more about the details of that. So you can look for that report, the viewers can.
Yeah.
But Winston, thanks to your office who alerted me to the fact that there is an imposter goldfish report page out there, and it's not a first one, but they seem to have gone by for quite a long time without being noticed, and it's time to stop what you're doing. Now, I saw that you made some changes, and I'm talking to the people right now who have copied and fraudulently copied our logo, our image, and using our name to make money. That's not okay. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to screen share the site. I'm going to have to do it again because I already explained this yesterday to everybody in that report. Okay. Look, when you see all these dots, these are commercial breaks. This means they monetize the channel. This is not us. We do not monetize and we never have. I've always made a promise that we were going to be commercial free. And so, and if you notice, they also stole our image and are using our name. And look at this. It says, I need money for make videos. Money donations for me. Thank you. Now, when you click on this PayPal page, you come to this page right here. Can you see that, Winston?
Yes.
Okay, this is a person in Vietnam. This is not the Goldfish Report. It isn't me. If you make contributions here, I will not receive it, or anyone at the Goldfish Report will not receive it. I do not know who this person is, but if you go to the bottom, it says report this page, and that's what you should do because they're committing fraud. They're impersonating us and they're making money doing it. So that's what I did yesterday. And I made a report to PayPal because they did not get the message when I asked them and put a notice on their site. And I'm going to show it to you because we also this is what it looks like. This is the page on YouTube. This is the fake site, the imposter. It's very pixelated. It's very poor quality. This is not like us. Okay. And also you can see that they rarely use the thumbnail because they had trouble doing so. When you click on the videos of this page, most of them do not have our logo on here. That's not our page. I always use our logo. One time did I not use the logo, and that was because I needed to send a very special message that we were about to be taken down by YouTube. And sure enough, we were on March 5th, 2018. And our site has not been restored. Now I'm going to show you what our actual site on YouTube now looks like. We had to rebuild the site. This is what it looks like. It is a much higher quality, higher resolution page. And if you notice, if you click on the videos section where you get a whole snapshot of all the videos, every one of them, except for the important message that I published, has our image. And if I click on has our logo, and if I click on one of the videos from this site, you will see you will see there are no yellow bar lines on the video play line here because we don't have commercials. We don't have we don't monetize the channel. So this is what you look for. These are the kinds of signs that you look for. And if you go back to the fake site, okay, you're going to see it's very poor quality because it's copied. I don't know how they're doing the technology, but we are in the process of finding out. Okay, then I'm going to screen share so you can see that the message here was just I need money for make video, which is not proper English. So they're not native English speaker English speakers. I'm not doing so good myself this morning speaking English either, but I'm usually let me try that again. They're not native speakers of English. Okay, that's obvious. So what I did was I went to their video. Well, there they go. And sorry about that, Winston, but that's what they have there. Okay, as you can see, again, it's very poor quality. I mean, I looked really bad that day, but I look even worse in this video. And you can see all the yellow bar lines that indicate this is a highly monetized channel. They're frauding you, people. Please don't fall for it. Please report them and do not subscribe. You're hurting Goldfish Report if you continue to watch this channel, because you're taking away my work, my creative work, the work I volunteer to do. And we only can do this through the generous donations of viewers. If we don't receive those funds, we can't keep these reports going. So when your funds go to a fraudulent site, it's not helping Goldfish Report. And there's nothing at all that we can do about it.
Well, let me also comment that they're not just stealing from you or Goldfish, they're stealing from the investors who are participating in Goldfish.
Exactly.
So they're actually stealing from all those who have invested in the Goldfish reports and so forth.
Now you can see here that our sister channel, the Canary Chronicles, which is a sister channel to the Goldfish Report, under the Canary Chronicles, I've posted 2 messages. It says legal notice, cease and desist using and impersonating the Goldfish Report. This is your PayPal. This and your PayPal account have been reported for fraud. Remove this name on this channel immediately. You are thieves and you are defrauding the viewers. Okay, and this is, and I also put a note here that please go to thegoldfishreport.com to find the legitimate link to our reports. This is our only official page, and you can only find our official YouTube page through this website. And that's all you really need to do. It's that simple. And you can see that many people do believe this is us. I mean, you can see the comments from the viewers. So you're being defrauded if you're on this channel. Realize that we do not monetize. These commercials are not us. So, please beware of that. I didn't have a problem with people uploading our videos, but when you take our entire channel and use it as if you are us, if you take our image and our likeness and our brand, then we have a problem, a big problem. And I am talking directly to the people who are doing it. You need to cease and desist right now. This is your legal notice, and you need to stop. And you've been reported, and you will be banned from YouTube forever if you continue to do this, because I have your IP address, and we are coming, and you better be very careful. Now, you've been warned. I put warnings on your videos for the past 2 days, and you still continue to download my videos, and you downloaded yesterday's very quickly. Okay, so now you get what you deserve. And I just want to warn you that you need to cease and desist immediately. So I've gotten that taken care of. Folks, I want you to, again, see the PayPal and see this is not even an English name. This is a person in Vietnam. And you need to be aware that any money you send here is not going to benefit the Goldfish Report whatsoever. Okay, so again, people can download our videos, but you cannot reproduce our image and our logo and our trade name. You cannot take the Goldfish Report name. And I also own the URL to that. So you really are stealing, and you need to stop. So I needed to get that over with, because apparently my message yesterday didn't get through. So I don't want our viewers to be defrauded, Winston. Our viewers are good people. They have been supportive of our reports on Goldfish Report, and it's not fair to them. So I'm doing everything I can. Just know that we're doing everything that we possibly can to stop the fraud and have the site taken down. They need to change their name. If all they did was change their name and put a different logo and not use our logo, it would be fine. But once they did that, it just brought it into a completely different category.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah. Don't you agree, Winston? So we've done what we could.
I do. Yeah, we had some of those same problems, or have had some of those same problems over the years with the solutions in commerce material and so forth. And again, not knowledge is free. It's the delivery and how you come by that knowledge, that we charge for. And so, for instance, if we go to the trouble with solutions in commerce to do a seminar or create DVDs. We've invested a huge amount of money to do that, and we need to recover it. So when people copy our stuff and sell it, for prices that's severely undercut.
Mm,
I mean, our prices are just about as low as you can get and still keep the lights on. But when they undercut,
mm.
then it destroys the effort, and it's just not fair.
You
It's
know,
not fair to people to do that.
sure, and we may even go as far, just so this site is aware. This Mon Trin, or it looks like the name is Mon Trin. We are going to also possibly send a subpoena to PayPal to disclose all those donations that you received in our name fraudulently and have you repay all of it.
There.
This is what happens when you want to conduct yourself in an unethical way and an immoral way. Okay, you cannot make money using the Goldfish Report name. It is unlawful. So, okay, now we have today. We're going to be talking about money. Winston's going to be sharing some images of Federal Reserve boxes and notes and things that he talked about in a previous report. And we're also going to um, hear from Winston about a few articles, one from Bill Avery, and we're going to be, again, revisiting the subject of money of exchange versus money of account, which is talking about the public and the private side. So this is still a very confusing topic, I think, for a lot of people. And because our archives are not up yet, I think it's great that Winston is revisiting this topic. So without further ado, I'll let you get on.
Well, I wanted to start out today telling a kind of a little funny story that happened to me yesterday. It's kind of a funny story. I'd been downtown and taken the light rail back to where I live at. Had made it all the way to the parking lot. I was in the car, about ready to start the car up, and I get a phone call from a certain lady named Louisa. I won't say her last name, so it's just Louisa.
Oh no, Winston.
And she was asking me some rather strange questions about nuts and bolts and washers. And I think, what's this all about? And I was kind of in a daze anyway. So what I did, I took out my pocket knife and I stabbed myself in the arm about 3 times to make sure I was awake because the questions that were being asked of me, I didn't think was in the real world that I was involved in.
Yes, you're still here, Winston, on 3D Planet Earth. It
Well,
wasn't that bad. No one's going to blame me.
well, no, I'm just trying to warn those. I'm just giving a warning because the gist of the story was that this Louisa lady who called me had purchased, I think at a yard sale or something, it was called a day bed, and she was trying to put it together. And she said she had a real problem. She said that she put it all together and there's only 3 legs on it, and the thing kept tipping on her. And then she had discovered the other 4th leg. So she was trying to put it together and having a little bit of trouble with the mechanics of the thing, which, a lot of people are not mechanical. But the warning I want to give out is that if anybody goes to visit Louisa, to stay overnight, and she offers to them a particular day bed to sleep on, you might want to be careful.
Okay, now I'm going to tell a story a little differently, Winston. Okay, I'm going to tell it. Like I'm going to screen share. I admit it was not a 3rd leg, but it had to do with the frame. I'm going to show it to everybody. No.
Okay.
Now that you brought it up, Winston, in my defense, and
Well, I'm not being accusatory. I didn't say.
God knows I need one. No, God knows I need one. I know. Well, Winston says, it's really not looking good for me getting into the Galactic Federation these days, something like that. So I kind of knew this was coming. So, okay, so here it comes. I'm sending you the picture. Okay, actual size. There you go. Send that. Okay. Well, so there's a frame for a bed, right? If it's a day bed, there's, it goes up against the wall, right? So you have a frame on the one end and a frame on the other end. And then you put the mattress on it. I'm like, why is this thing wobbling? Okay, well, I'm going to show you. This is what happened. Really quick, like I said, I need one. I do need a defense. So here's the picture, okay? Wait, it's a little too big. Go back to the small size. There we go. Why does that have to do that? Okay, let me go to screen share and I'll show it to you guys. And I was just putting this together, and it didn't occur to me that I asked my daughters. Here it is. I asked my daughters to bring up the frames, the pieces of the frames, while I was assembling the other part. So they did. They brought up this piece from here to here, and they brought up this piece from here to here. And I put it together that way. And I said, why is this so unsteady? I went downstairs to get the other mattress, and I saw this big piece sitting there. And I thought, what the heck is that? How come I didn't see that? So when I figured out putting this bag piece on it made it much more sturdy, I realized that I know, Winston, all right, enough of that. Okay, so fine. So I didn't realize I needed that back piece until I realized how unstable it was. So at least we gave Winston a good laugh today. That's really good. And yesterday too.
Well, I got stab marks in my arm where I stabbed myself to make sure I was in reality.
Yes, you're still on 3D. Yes, you are.
So, yeah, you caused me to stab myself.
But you know how funny it is, so stable now.
Well, just a warning to people: be careful. St. Louis's house. Be careful what pages like.
Yeah, isn't that funny? But the reason I called Winston wasn't because of the frame. The reason I called Winston was because I wasn't sure where the washers went. If the washer was supposed to go between the two frames or in front of the head of the screw, and Winston straightened that out for me right away. Well, because you know why? Because it was wobbling. And I said, you know what I said? Winston, you know what I said to myself? I said, maybe the washer's in the wrong place. That's what I said. That's why I called Winston. I said, Winston, where's the washer supposed to go? Because it's wobbling. Okay. I missed that one, okay?
All right. Well, it's just a little funny story.
It is funny.
We kind of like to start things out with a little bit of a chuckle at your expense, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was, but you know what? My defense is that there was the full moon.
Okay.
The full moon was overwhelming me. And
okay.
Yeah, that's what happened.
We'll accept that excuse.
It was a really powerful full moon. Yeah, it just got the best of me.
All right. Well, just like I say, we just need a little chuckle every once in a while to kind of get things started. And so I thought I'd tell that little funny story while it's fresh on my mind.
Yeah, and he says, I'm really not going to make it into the Galactic Federation unless I learn ham bone and chewing tobacco spitting or something. So.
Well, it's just, but like I say, sometimes those things are very confusing, and a lot of parents have found this out as Christmas, when they open up the boxes and try to start assembling all these toys and everything for kids.
Exactly. Yeah, and in my defense, it did not come with instructions.
Yeah, I know.
I know, it should have been common sense. But I forgot that. I told my kids to bring up all the frame pieces, and they didn't bring up that piece, so I thought it was all there. And I'm like, I go downstairs, I'm like, what is that doing here? Sure enough, boy, it's pretty stable now. Put the washer. Okay. I put the washer in the right place, Winston.
I hope so.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, folks. We really needed that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Winston. Thanks, Winston.
Well, for nothing else, it just shows, that me, Luis, and all of us, we're just people. We're just doing the normal things that people do and having the same problems that everybody else would have and everything. So it's good. It's good. People listen to us talk about some very difficult things sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
And so sometimes it's just good to show, the viewers, the ones who listen to this, that we're just people too.
Just like them.
We have the same problems you have. Or
yep, putting day beds together.
Some of us have some of the same problems that others have.
Well, I mean, a bed only has a headboard and a footboard. You're not really thinking you got a side piece, and even though it's a day bed, you're still not thinking because it's up against the wall. And I don't know, it just didn't occur to me that there was a big piece missing. Okay, all right, let's keep going, Winston. Enough. Pretty funny though.
Okay, well, let's get serious then.
Okay.
Like I say, we just need to have a little bit of a chuckle there to get started. Today, we want to talk about some more about what people call money. Like I say, there's so very little understanding about money, and again, in our busy world, we just take whatever we got and go with it because that's what we're used to. And then we don't understand what we're doing, and we don't understand the implications of how we handle some of these things. And so it would be good, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, but it's good to have understanding so that you act with knowledge, so that you're acting with knowledge and not just because that's just the way you've always done it or whatever. And so, again, one of the things, that is generally misunderstood is the nature of the money that we use, the implications, and the problems that it has caused. And so as we go into a new system, as we move forward in the correction, I mean, we talk about the global reset of currency and all these kind of things, and people probably scratch their heads saying, what is it that we're resetting?
Mm-hmm.
And without a little bit of knowledge, without a little bit of history on the subject, it causes general confusion. Mm-hmm. And because of the general confusion, then people would not be apt to support the change. You see what I mean? And so it's good to have a little bit of understanding, a little bit of knowledge about these things because of the energetics involved. Because in order to make a system successful, the energy that people insert into that system are essential, because money itself is only a representation of your energy. And how would you like your energy to be used? That's the question. And so if you just helter-skelter throw your energy here or there, what is the result of that? Would it be different if you directed your energy? You see. And so again, there's some pitfalls that we can avoid by understanding, and there's some good improvements that can be made by directed energy, directed intent, which on the quantum level creates substance. And so we would like to have a viable, usable monetary system. And my position is that system would be greatly enhanced if the participants in that system were using directed energy rather than just helter-skelter. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is one of the reasons why we do education. Certainly as Solutions in Commerce for all these years, the GoldFish reports, the Country Roads, and many others, who are trying to influence people to do the right thing, for the right reasons. And so, I'm going to review a few things. We had talked about in the past some of these Federal Reserve bonds in 100 million and 500 million denominations. People think, boy, that's crazy. I wonder what that looks like. So I just went on the internet and pulled down a picture of one. Let me see if I can get it up here, see if it comes up properly.
Are you saying this is the Federal Reserve note, or is this the Treasury note? Ooh.
Yeah. You see that?
Oh, my goodness.
That's $100 million Federal Reserve note. It's a bond. And
Yeah.
you'll notice down below it, they have coupons.
Huh.
Now,
Just.
these are some of the first ones. They over a period of time, this is what came out. See, I think this one, I can almost read it.
Hmm.
It was some of the stuff that came out early in the 30s.
Hmm.
And then over a period of time, they had to reissue as circumstances needed it. And so this is an example of what you will find in these.
Interesting.
There you go. That
Wow.
box right there would be full of these things that I just showed you.
Hmm.
Now, each of the Federal Reserve banks created these.
Hmm.
This
Oops,
one
sorry
here,
about that.
this particular box was from the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago.
Wow.
You see right on the box, Federal Reserve Bond.
Hmm.
Federal Reserve Bond. And we've
Yeah.
talked quite a bit about bonds and the relationship
Hmm.
that they have as an insurance policy, as a guarantee for money. So in essence, these bonds in these denominations, in these boxes, are the guarantee for the small change stuff that we carry around in our pocket.
Hmm.
Now, each of these smaller boxes is part of a mother box.
Wow. Look at that. That's
Yeah, so
huge.
so these 12 smaller boxes fit inside this mother box.
Whoa. You got these on the internet, Winston?
No, these were not on the
Okay,
internet.
I didn't
This
think
was
so.
somebody that wanted to do some trading, and they were working with a guy that I knew, and they sent me this information like I really cared to do something about it. Of course, I couldn't. I could only introduce them to somebody who might
Hmm.
be able to. Because you'll notice right here, as proof, down here, you see a newspaper with a date on it. This is typical, but it's Italian. Somebody in Italy got a hold of this box. How in the world they got that, I have no idea.
Actually, that looks German.
No. Well, it may be, but the
It's
guy that had it was actually, he probably switched.
Italian.
Anyway, yeah,
Okay,
the
yeah.
fellow that had the boxes was Italian, and how in the world he ever got them, I have no idea. But let me express this.
Me too.
Anybody that has these, they are stolen property. That's why myself, I won't get close to one because I know that it's stolen property.
Oh, I know who did it. Sticky Fingers.
Sticky fingers.
Yeah, Sticky Fingers got a hold of it.
Well, that might be the case, but see, this has been going on for a long time. Somehow these things get stolen and passed all over creation. People have been killed over this. People have been killed over it, and probably about I don't know, every few months or something like that, somebody will send me an email and ask me, "Hey, I got some of this stuff. Is anything can be done with it?"
Hmm.
I said, "Yeah." I said, lose my phone number or lose my email. That's what I tell them.
Wow.
Because again, it's stolen. Now, way back, I don't know, maybe around 2001 or two, when I was dealing with Knights of Malta,
Oh.
the financial minister of that organization
Mhm.
had previously been, she had previously run the trading desk at Barclays in London. And she
Mhm.
is perfectly capable of dealing with these things. And so some individuals say, I got some of these, what can be done with it? And so I said, well, send me the numbers on the boxes.
Mhm.
And he did. And I sent them to her. She said, yeah, those are valid. She says, they're stolen.
Mm.
And so the question was, well, what could be done with it? She says, well, there's generally a 6% finder's fee, 6% of the value of the box
Uh-oh.
for finder's fee. Now, that's legal. That's legal. That's, it's basically,
Mm.
hey, I found something, and here's your reward for finding it and returning it to its owner.
Mhm.
And she said, what we'll do, because again, she knew how to do trades and all those kind of things. She ran the trading desk at Barclays.
Right. Right.
She says, what we'll do for your, she says, here's how it's going to work. Because she ain't going to do nothing for free. Trust me.
Yep.
She said, I'll take the 6% finders. And she said, we'll take our cut, and then I'll trade on this to supply you with basically the equivalent value that's actually in that box. That's what she was willing to do. And then this idiot backed out of it. He wanted, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? People are so selfish and greedy. I
Yep.
mean, the guy was going to end up, I don't know, with probably about 3% of the finder's fee that she was willing to trade to get him billions of dollars, and he wouldn't do it. You know, people are so selfish and greedy, you know, but that was the procedure,
Mm.
because I had dealt with other people as well that had contacted me and said, hey, we got some of this stuff. What can be done with it? And I said, well, I'll be happy to introduce you to someone who can deal with those things. He said, okay. He said, I've got something going on right now. He said, if it doesn't work out, because he was working out with somebody else on a finder's fee.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if it doesn't work out, contact me again, and I'll put you in touch with basically this financial minister, you know, the lady for the Knights.
Mm.
And as it turned out, he was able to. Actually, it was Colin Powell that did it for him. And so again, you know, these things. This is a crazy world. People, how they get this crap, I don't know. But I'm guaranteeing you, it's all stolen.
Yeah.
Now, let me give you, you know, for those of you listening to this that might have some of this junk, don't open those boxes. Don't open them. There's consequences for that. And also, let me recommend to you that there'll be a stack. In that box, there'll be a stack of these bonds.
Mm.
Every other one of those is counterfeit. That's why you don't open them. You don't take them out. So you got one here that's good. The next one's counterfeit. The next one's good. The next one's counterfeit. And they did that on purpose. And another thing they did for plausible deniability on the real ones, they misspelled the words. There's some words in there that are purposefully misspelled. Do you understand me? For plausible deniability. So some of this stuff showed up somewhere. You know, they can say, well, that's not a good bond. Look there. You know, they misspelled these words over here. They did that on purpose. Just so the hey, this is the craziest story yet. And then another thing was, you know, there are teams, and I had talked to a guy that had a team that they could actually do a forensic analysis of any of these loose bonds that showed up to find out whether they were counterfeit or real. And so they had certain tests they could make on them. And I guess well, maybe now we're at the point of history where I feel, you know, the counterfeiting is basically over with because they're no good anymore, was the ink that was used to print these bonds as part of the pigment in those inks. It was some of the elements from the wings of a monarch butterfly that was part of that ink. And so when these guys did the forensics, they were looking for those elements that came from monarch butterfly. You know, so this whole thing has been nothing but a spy versus spy crazy stuff that's going on with this crap. And that's why I won't get close to that stuff. I won't touch it. Won't have to do with it. You know, if you called me up and said, you know, it's something to be done with this, you know, I might be able to refer you to somebody that could. But don't bring that stuff around me.
Yeah. I think even the fellows over in Indonesia were filming. They're taking the documents of these. they had the what you would call what the templates. They were like metal templates for these
Yeah,
bonds.
the printing.
The printing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What were they? Slates, or they were.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and also, so they would show the printing template and the press. What is it?
Yeah,
What do you call those cookie?
printing press,
It's
whatever.
like a
Uh-huh.
cookie cutter thing or whatever,
Yeah.
and also, so once they showed the actual document, they would have to put the black light on in order to see the special security features that were in those documents too.
Yeah, that
Black
was
light.
part of it. But again, the forensic teams would go through and analyze the paper and the ink
Yeah. Mm.
to verify that, some of these things were actually real. And
Right.
so again, but again, if you have possession of those, or if you know somebody that has possession of those are stolen items. They're stolen, and you better be careful with them, because if it gets around that you have those things, somebody's going to be at your front door. Somebody's going to be at your front door, so you better negotiate it. And get them, get what you can get out of them as a finder's fee.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to get.
Busted fingers is going to show up.
Worse than that.
Yeah.
Worse than that.
Fingers. Okay. So
So again,
that's
like I say, I just wanted to show some of those pictures so people would know that they're real, and then give a caveat warning about dealing with some of those things. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. And I could tell you so many stories about people that have fooled with that stuff. One friend of mine, he was fooling with some of that stuff, and he ended up dead. He was poisoned to death.
Oh boy.
And so, like I say, don't bring that crap around me.
Mm.
Anyway, I think that era of that problem is pretty much over at this point. And so we're going into something a little bit better, as we suppose.
Yeah.
Now, again, like I say, just a little bit of history and just a little bit of knowledge about some of these things is ever so important for understanding. Because, as I had mentioned in some of our previous reports, me personally, I'm not willing to transfer from one tyranny to just another tyranny. And the tyranny, at least in the past, has been caused by money, Federal Reserve notes. That was a tyranny. And now we think we're going into a reset. And so we need to look very closely at the reset itself, and also to kind of in our own way determine how will I act in this reset. How have I acted in the past? Have I acted in the past with absolutely no knowledge of what was going on? Will I do any better? Will I do any better in this reset? The answer is no, probably you won't. And so that's why, I've tried to, bring out a little bit of history about some of these things, give a few, ideas about how things ought to be and so forth. Because, originally, with the plan of the experts, they had developed a process and a program that, had it not been corrupted, it would have worked. It would have brought world peace. But because it was corrupted, we have what we had. And so as we start to talk about a reset, and happy days are here again, and things are going to get better. It'll only get better if the people get better. No system can possibly operate correctly without people.
Right, with integrity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not just integrity, but with knowledge, and not just knowledge of a few at the top.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
But all the people. If you're going to participate in this new monetary system, this reset, and all these kind of things, for God's sake and for your sake, You know, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of study, and listen to some of these goldfish reports. You know, where we try to demonstrate, you know, some of these things because, like I say, you know, you can blindly walk through your life and come out the other side, and what do you got?
Mm.
Not much. But if you go through life studying and gaining knowledge and all these kinds of things, isn't that ever so much better than just blindly stumbling, you know, through 70 or 80 years? You know,
Yeah.
it makes good sense. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not criticizing so much as I'm trying to uh, 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 inspire or get people to, you know, take a close look at things because
Yeah.
we simply cannot just trade one tyranny for another tyranny. I'm not putting up with it. See what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, today we want to go into just a little bit more history. I want to share an article that came out. I've referred to this one particular book called "Dispatch of Merchants in Times Past," written by Bill Avery. Back in, I think he wrote it back in '76. And there's ever so much information in that article. I think we've shared it in the past. If you can't find it, just go on the internet, type in the Dispatch of Merchants, William Avery. It'll pop up. You can get a copy. It'll pop up as a PDF. You can get it. You can study it. Anyway, I want to go over just a portion of that and bring up some points, you know, that might be helpful. Is that up?
Yep. Let me see it.
Okay. Now
No problem.
this is out of Bill Avery's book, and it shows you how the system was manipulated to the detriment of people.
Oh, gee.
To the detriment of people. And so a system that was set up was manipulated, hijacked, it was stolen. And, you know, and again, you know, people just fell right into it because they didn't know any better. That's the sum total of it. And so, you know, when people like Bill Avery or anybody puts out information to try to educate people, you know, we would hope that it would be received and acted upon and objected to when we find that the system is being incorrectly manipulated. That's what we would hope. So let's go through a little bit of this. Like I say, you can find this in his book, The Dispatch of Merchants. I wanted to highlight a few items here. And there's some words and things that you need to study, you need to look up, you need to make it, you know, a part of your vocabulary so that when you have conversations or you share with other people, that you would be able to accurately describe, you know, the situation. Because again, you know, we think in words. And if you're improperly using words, then your logic and your thinking is going to be incorrect. You see. So we would think, you know, that perhaps we would become conversant with some of these words and so forth, because when we go into this reset, we don't need to be, you know, as uneducated in the new system or in the reset as we were with the things that were. And so that just makes a little bit of good logical sense, I think. So anyway, let's look through some of this. Oh, there's some things I want to point out. Let's go. Okay, so he says the basis for this action was laid in the Federal Reserve Act, which makes commercial paper. He didn't say money. He said commercial paper, the fundamental lawful money, which form the reserves of member banks. Now, if you go look at some of the regulations about banking, all those kind of things, technically, any bank would have to have 10% of their, what they would call their asset base, in actual Federal Reserve notes. in the vault on hand. That was the regulation. And then they kind of went around the corner on that. And then it got down to 1%. 1%. And so at any given time, any banking system should have in the vault on hand 10% of their net worth held in Federal Reserve notes. And that's what, when you see all these movies on television about all these bank robbers, and they go in and open up the vault and haul out,
Yep.
A whole lot of cash and stuff. That's what it is. It's their reserve that they are required to have on hand at all times. Like I say, originally it was 10%, and now it's kind of got whittled down through some mechanism down to 1%. That's why when you go in on a Friday with your paycheck into a bank, instead of depositing your check, if you ask them to cash it out, they don't want to do it because they got to replace that as part of their requirement to hold, X amount of Federal Reserve notes in reserve. So that's what this is talking about here. Then he goes on to say this means private notes acceptances and bills of exchange become lawful money, but not legal specie. Okay, what is generally held to be legal specie? I think I got some here in my pocket.
Why do they use the term specie? Why is that?
Because that's the proper word for this.
I see.
This is specie.
Okay,
all right.
This happens to be the word. Okay.
Yeah. Now, again, the system is corrupted. All right. But what Bill Avery is trying to point out to people is basically how the system is stealing your energy through the use of commercial paper that they try to convert into specie. That's what they're doing. So let's go a little bit further here so you understand how this works. Okay, so this means private notes, acceptances, and bills of exchange become lawful money, but not legal specie. For specie defeats the swindle of destroying credit and debt. So you're going to see how they do this because it's a scam. It's a scam for theft. Because if I have this little item here in my pocket, how did I get it in there? I inserted energy someplace and I came out with this.
Right.
This represents my energy. And so the system, to survive, what does the system need? My energy.
Right.
And if they can't get it any other way, they'll steal it from me. They'll cheat me out of it. Like I said, heretofore, before we had this last little deal with this last election and stuff like that, 50% of the working population worked for the federal or state government in some capacity. 50% of the working force. And how did they pay this 50% of the working force so it was something that was viable? They took this from me, they took this from you. That's how they did it. Now, so the question is, how'd they get it? How'd they pull that little trick? And so that's what we're going to investigate just a little bit. And that's what Bill Avery was investigating way back in 1976. He knew it. Bill knew it. Anyway, he said it likewise means checks, thus by the daily. Now, back in 76, bank checks were a whole lot different than they are now. Back in 76, for the most part, as I understand it, the bank checks were actually drafts. Today, they're notes. But anyway, we can't get into that so much. Anyway, thus by the daily passing of the Federal Reserve notes and endorsing of checks and the use of credit cards, every individual, whatever his calling, becomes a credit merchant, subject to summary judgment under the private custom of merchants. Now let's go back and find out who these merchants are. He talks about it a little bit. If you recall, in the history of England,
Mm-hmm.
when Norman the Conqueror invaded and brought with him the Jews and their usury system, that that Talmudic, the Babylonian Talmudic stuff,
Right.
the city of London held out. City of London held out, and William the Conqueror could not overrun City of London. And they finally got into a truce, and the truce was that, okay, William, you and your Talmudic technique and so forth, you can go ahead and do whatever you want to do, but City of London will maintain law merchant. I think it's called Lex McCurd. I mean, I can't say those Latin words. All right. So they maintain the law of merchants. Now, the law of merchants, it became known as law merchant law. That's what it became known as.
Mm-hmm.
And it is different. It is different. It's not national. It's international. It's the law of the merchants. And the merchants could care less for what a nation's law might be.
Mm.
So how did law merchant law invade the United States of America and the Constitution, where it talks about gold and silver?
Right.
How did they do that?
Good question.
Well, I showed you pictures of it.
Oh, they did it by creating the bonds.
Yeah. They did it by creating commercial paper, and then they used the legal system to convert the commercial paper into specie, which again has your energy attached to it.
Okay, but
I worked for this.
right. But what changed in the law that allowed that to happen? That's what I was curious.
Trickery and foolery.
So that's the Admiralty.
The conspiracy of the courts.
It's the Admiralty law system, right?
No, I wouldn't classify it so much as Admiralty as tyranny law. Admiralty law is good law. Admiralty law is good law. Matter of fact, I prefer Admiralty law myself. But you can't say that the courts are using the Admiralty law to do this theft right here, because Admiralty law does not provide for what they're doing.
Okay.
It's tyranny. It's theft.
Tyranny.
It's mafioso to the extreme.
Organized crime. It's organized crime.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and again, because nothing was done. See, the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913, and because it was not objected to under the international law of prescription, it became law in 1933, and then bing bang boom, all over the place. The plan of the experts got perverted. It never had a chance because of the perversion of these criminals. And those who objected to it were murdered.
Is this called
the congressmen and so forth that was trying to prevent this? They were murdered.
Is this called the Glass-Steagall Act?
Well, I can't go into all those kind of things.
It's not the Trading with the Enemy Act, is it?
Okay, let's not get into some of those details. I'm trying to give
no problem. You don't want to do that. Okay.
Of how this all happened.
Got it. Okay.
And so what happened in 1933? The public generally was not aware of it, and those senators and congressmen who were trying to open these things up to the public, many of them were murdered for opposing it. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So this, in some instances, this came upon us because of ignorance, and some of it came upon us because of at the end of a barrel, just like what's her name, Anne Rand was talking about.
Right.
Go back and review that article we had, where Anne Rand was talking about this very thing, about the system being forced on us out the barrel of a gun, and it really happened that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So again, like I say, until you know some of these histories, you can't figure out where we came from. Then you don't have any idea about this reset that's fixing to happen. Do we need to watch the reset?
Sure.
To make sure it's not hijacked again.
Obviously, yeah.
And how do you do that if you don't have any idea about what to look for? Thank God and Al Gore that we have the internet.
Thanks to Al Gore. Man, he should get a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, I think didn't Al invent the internet?
Since they're handing them out through gumball machines these days, apparently to President Obama, who's going to be impeached because he was not born in the United States, according to the evidence I've seen.
Well, anyway, I'm trying to make a few points, just so that we don't go back and repeat. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to repeat. And the problem is with people, when they're used to doing things a certain way and see no reason to change, they'll keep doing it that way. And so, so we have people like Bill Avery and different ones, and Winston and Louisa, and different ones that are trying to impress upon the people that we need to look at and understand. Because again, what is the difference between a Federal Reserve note and a United States note?
Well, one's printed by the Treasury, and one is it's printed.
The difference is interest. The Talmudic interest usury system is going to be eliminated with the use of these new United States notes. That's the difference.
Well, that's from the Federal Reserve side. I just thought you meant what was backing it.
I'm just trying to make a point. I'm just trying to make a point that we're going to remove the Talmudic concept of interest and usury on commercial paper. Is a United States note actually a commercial paper? Well, of course it is. It says right on it, it's a note. That's commercial paper. That's not specie, technically. It might be used as specie. But what I'm trying to impress on people is, to get your understanding, to the point where when you look at something, you know what it is. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not being critical of people. I'm just trying to share.
Yeah, I was just saying that there's a lot of differences between the two. That's not the only one, but I was trying to go down the list of what the differences are. I didn't know where you were going specifically with that. So
yeah,
and I think our viewers weren't sure either, but that's okay.
Yeah, well,
we know now.
Yeah, you really need to download that book, Dispatch of Merchants. Go over that. Anyway, going back at some of the history, talking about commercial paper, they have the term "as good as gold."
Yeah.
Upon the merchant's word in general commercial circles, whether domestic or international. But then he goes into the difficulty that was created. It says here, parenthetically, we see the meaning of the word summary judgment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is
that? This notorious equitable device, passing as legal, is the means by which credit money can be converted into lawful money and be compelled of acceptance as such. Now first off, where do you find summary judgment at?
In courts.
All right, so who is it that's forcing the acceptance? It's the courts.
Yeah.
Now, do you go to court for justice? Anybody that does it, that out of your mind. Anyway, since the summary judgment accomplishes the demand payment of specie or its equivalent in tangible property, it causes the dispatch of merchants. On this basis and for this purpose did commercial paper become lawful money under the Federal Reserve. That is, mere chose in action could be considered the equivalent of tangible specie. Let me tell you how it happens. In our present court system, an attorney puts in a complaint, either civil or criminal, it's all the same. that complaint is commercial paper. It's what's known in negotiable instruments as a bill of exchange. Okay, so it's commercial paper, not specie, commercial paper. All right, so an attorney puts that in under his signature. The clerk looks at it and says, okay, we will accept that.
Mhm.
And then what does the court turn into at that point?
A bank.
No, yeah, it's a bank, but third party debt collector. They're a third party to the matter, and they're a debt collector because the issue at hand on the commercial paper, known as a complaint, which is a bill of exchange, the question is really who is going to be the payor and who is going to be the payee. See? And so the attorney is pushing to make the defendant, which is in all capital letters, as the payor, and the plaintiff then would become the payee. In other words, they're going to get the money. All right. So this whole business in our court/bank system
Unbelievable.
is simply the conversion of commercial paper into some other thing which has energy value in it. So let's say, you get into a civil suit, you're being sued for $100 or whatever. It goes through the process and the court bank decides, the defendant here needs to pay $100. Well, how are you going to pay the $100?
Well, they also commit fraud to come up
No,
with
okay, let's not go what they also do.
Sorry.
So what does the court direct the defendant to do?
To pay.
In what?
Oh, in a summary judgment.
Yeah, but how shall the payment be? They try to get you to pay in specie. They try to get you to pay with something that has energy in it.
Mm.
Now, that's against public policy. That's against House Joint Resolution 192 and against Title 31 of the United States Code. But if they can trick someone into giving them energetic money that we call specie, that's what they'll do. And if you try to do anything else, they'll stomp their feet and yell and scream.
Yep.
So that's how they steal your energy, is by the conversion, which they can't legally do, lawfully do. That's what they do. And that is they bring in what's known as a chosen action or a bill of exchange/complaint. And then they try to get a real man as surety for the defendant to give them energy money that has energy in it. Because again, they don't want payment and something that don't have any energy in it. Now, do they? How are they going to pay all their employees? Mm-hmm. So their employees are going to say, "Hey, we don't want crap. We want some energy here. We did work. We swept the halls. We opened the doors. We did all these things. We shuffled the paper and all these kind of things. We put our energy into this court/bank. Mm-hmm. Now we want energy back out.
Okay, so
for our labor."
To summarize, someone brings in a complaint. It's a chosen action. It's a bill of exchange, and the attorney is the representative. Is basically the banker. Okay, so they tried. So using the docket number that you have, they get a person as a surety, as you said, the defendant. They take this then to they deliberate on whatever the matters are until they come up with a total.
Yeah.
And then, and however, I can just tell you from my own experience, however corrupt and criminal that may be, and they do commit crimes in the courtroom to create these bills of exchange.
Yeah.
They take these bills of exchange to the Treasury Department, They have someone
Yep.
on inside of the Treasury Department in collusion with you, and
Yep.
they raid your straw man account. And yeah,
Exactly.
that's the purpose of the courts.
Yeah. Plain and simple. They're all commercial courts.
They're there to basically clean out your all of our prepaid accounts.
That's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Like I said, my friend, I gave the story of my friend over there in the United Kingdom he had a civil action going,
Hmm.
and it had a case number on it. So he was pursuing that civil case against some defendant. I don't remember who it was,
Right.
but he got to doing research and found out about. He just found right off the top about a half dozen court cases that had his case number on them,
Hmm.
and he went to investigate and found out that they weren't actually valid cases.
So, but also,
And, and, and when I found out about that, I said,
okay.
"Get away from that, man.
Mm.
That's an MI6 scam operation. Get away from it." He didn't
And,
get away quick enough, and they killed him.
yeah, and CIA, MI6 CIA is the same thing. So you're saying that so it's in their best interest. The longer they can keep a case in litigation,
Yeah,
the more money they're going to steal from your prepaid account. So for
exactly.
instance, so I've been in a divorce for 7 years, which
Yeah,
not a lot of people know about, but this is what happened. And they are stringing it out and stringing it out and stringing it out. And
yeah,
they have destroyed everything basically financially, and they kidnapped my children. They did everything they possibly could. They
yeah.
strung this divorce out. They have been stealing and robbing my prepaid Treasury Direct account, and probably my ex's as well. So this is
Correct.
very much,
And your children.
and my children's because their names are involved.
Yes.
This is such fraud, people. I mean, you really have to wake up to this and realize why would it take 7 years to get a divorce, and it's that, there's no reason for it. You just need to watch Divorce Corp, the movie, and the movie highlights these incredibly long cases, that the more assets you have, the longer your divorce is going to last. And what they do is they go after the female, because usually you have higher assets, so the woman usually stays home to raise the children because they can afford to. And since she doesn't work, she really becomes, for many, many, many years, unemployable after a certain amount of time when technology is superseded. And of course, after having children, you're not the same body as you were before. So it really puts the woman at a terrible disadvantage. And they know that if they go after the children, that they can keep you fighting. And their goal is to weaken the woman until she can't fight any longer, and she can, will lose custody of her kids. She'll go bankrupt, lose her finances, and give in to whatever the wealthier spouse, the working wealthier spouse, has. Um, and that's their game plan, and it's called churning. The lawyers churn the cases. There was a news report done on this, an investigative report, and they churn the cases where all the divorce attorneys know each other, and they churn the case. So what that means is they both know what assets you have, and they're thinking, I'm going to buy a new Mercedes. And this is exactly what the lawyer was recorded saying on a secret recording being made by an investigator. And the attorneys now, probably maybe not all of them do it, but most of them do it. And at least that's how it works in New Jersey. And when I started to complain about the court system, that's when they came down on me, and they attacked me and did horrible, horrible things. Horrible things. And so what happens is, they churn the case, they work it together. They know they pick who's the weakest part of the party, and they know how to go in for the attack. They actually foment, uh, um, the I would say antagonize the couple. They antagonize them to continue to file motions. Some divorces have 30 motions, or more. Winston.
Yeah.
So every time they file a motion, which is what you say is a
It's commercial paper.
yeah, that's another bill of exchange that
Exactly.
they can ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And this is why lawyers have the jokes they have. I mean, when you're really you know, committing actions like this, now the judges are in on it, and
Well, of
they
course they are. They're attorneys.
yeah, and they have what's called what I heard was an 801k account, which means they get a percentage, which is their like kind of like a retirement account. And
Yep.
the judges, all right, this couldn't be a greater conflict of interest, folks, okay? The judges, right? The judges get a percentage of all the dockets and fees that they preside over. So, the thing to do is to not go to the court system when you have a problem. The thing to do is to solve your own problems.
Yes. Go to a mediator, and get into binding mediation by agreement of the parties, get the thing worked out, how it works out, because you're going to come out way ahead than if you go into a court.
Mm.
Way ahead.
Yep. Because
Anyway.
they bankrupt people.
Oh,
But
hell yeah, they do.
Winston, I'm just going down this road right at this moment because I just need to put it into a little bit more like context in a way that people can relate to. Because
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Because that's kind of like somebody's been in court for a traffic ticket or something. You know what I mean? Almost everybody has. So it's kind of like something that they can relate to. And for many people, since half marriages end up in divorce, at least half of the viewers have been in a courtroom or have been through a divorce and know that, and it's really not usually the other spouse. It's usually the attorneys because
Yep.
they're the ones who
Profit.
they get more. Their bill is bigger and thicker, and they make more money. The more you argue with your spouse, the more money they make. And the thing is that they did take an oath, and they do have to have some accountability. If you try to go to the ethics complaint department or fee complaints that they themselves set up, if they're friends with the attorney, you're not gonna win. I mean, that's just my
Yeah. Just, instead of doing that, use a commercial lien. I mean, that puts an end to a whole lot of stuff in a great big hurry.
Okay, so let's continue. I just wanted people to understand going down that path, this is what it means to go down that path that we're talking about, where the courts actually use this in a real life scenario. And
Yeah.
that happens to be a real life scenario that has been used. So this is why this topic is so important to understand what they're actually doing with this. This is what they're doing.
And more than anything else, with this reset, we do not want to repeat this.
Exactly.
It's going to take a little while to get it all rooted out, but I think we're going to get it rooted out with these sealed indictments. After these sealed indictments are all enforced, I would strongly suspect there won't be that many judges left on the bench.
I have a feeling there's quite a few on that list.
The biggest part of them.
Yeah. Well, look, everybody has a choice. Karma's going to catch up to you sooner or later, right?
You remember we talked about that from that book Shantaram. I brought some of those elements in just to show things, but remember that one phrase: how much sin is in the crime.
Yes, that was a great report too, Winston. I really appreciated what you said.
Now again, we use the word debt, and sin is a word in the Bible, but they also use debt in the King James also. So the question is, how much debt is in the crime? And for the most part, these statutory crimes, as they call them, there's no debt involved with them until the attorney comes in with a bill of exchange for collection, and the court upholds them and then tries to persuade you to give them specie money for a commercial paper. That don't work, So again, I'll just mention, we may not get to it, but in one of the DVDs that I have produced, as Solution in Commerce, It's called money of exchange versus money of account. If you want to understand some of these concepts and so forth, get that DVD, study it, show it to your friends, so that you and they will understand what money is.
Which is
And
money of exchange being the public
something
side.
for something.
Right, it's the public side, though.
No, that's the private side.
Oh, so
Something, some substance for some other substance, and we simply use the money as the interchange so that we get something for something. In other words, if I have earned $10, I can use that $10 bill to go and
right,
exchange
money of
with a
exchange.
merchant for something that has a value of $10.
Got it.
Now, the money of account is what we use in the public side. And so again, on that DVD, I'm showing the difference so the
Yeah,
people can see it.
yeah. Now I got it
And
confused.
you won't fall victim to what Avery is talking about here.
Yeah, it was a little counterintuitive, but I got it. Just like that. Just like putting that day bed together.
Oh, gracious.
Well, when I have trouble with the day bed, and these sometimes can be a little tricky. Okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question now,
No.
not to be accusatory, but have you ever changed a flat tire on your car?
Yes.
Did
I
you put
know
it
how.
together like you put that day bed together? That's a scary thought.
No. And I just had a mechanic fix my car anyway, so I don't do it myself. Well, look,
Sorry, I just
Winston. Hey, when you know you don't know something, that's why you call Winston and you ask Winston.
you
That's what I did. And you set me
oh,
straight.
just have a little chuckle.
I know, it's okay.
It's at Louise's expense, but she's got broad shoulders. She can handle
Yeah, it's okay.
it.
It's
All right.
funny. It's really funny, though. I mean, I can laugh at myself with that because it was really it's somehow just really kind of a
Well, yeah, I get this phone
big
call,
blooper.
and you ask a question to me. I'm thinking, am I asleep? That's why I got my knife out and poked myself in the arm, make sure I was awake.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, I thought it was because I didn't know where to put the washers that the bed was
Well, that's what I was thinking. Well, what's this phone call all
the
about?
bed was not stable. It was moving. And I'm thinking, well, a bed usually has I was not thinking day bed. A bed usually has a headboard and a footboard. Why is mine not stable? I didn't understand. And it wasn't anyway.
Okay, we'll move on. Now that we wore out that joke, we'll move on a little bit here.
It's funny though. I think it's hysterical. I was laughing too.
Yeah,
But I knew
yeah.
you weren't going to let me into the Federation. Okay. I'll earn my way back.
Okay. Well, we'll make provisions. That it depends on education. You got to get up there a little bit.
Oh, by the way, we haven't reached that 10,000 subscriber mark, so Winston's not going to do Hambone until we do. So come on, guys, get everybody to subscribe back to our channel. We get all our subscribers back, and then you can watch Winston do Hambone.
Yeah, if you're lucky, I'll do it with both hands. Anyway, let's get on a little bit more with this information.
Sorry about that.
here.
Sorry about that. Yep.
No,
It's
we're not.
Saturday. Our minds are a little full moon syndrome.
Yeah, that's pretty moon. Okay, then it goes into a little bit, like I say, it's a little bit more history here. It says that as it was a strictly private custom and practice. In other words, the law merchant, how they were handling things with commercial paper and so forth. Says that as it was strictly private custom and practice, it could not be enforced in the domestic courts of any host country, including particularly Great Britain. So they were having a problem there. See, again, City of London is a sovereign to itself.
Right, like DC and
Yeah.
Vatican.
Yeah. And so City of London is not under the jurisdiction of the United Kingdom. It never has been ever since William the Conqueror. Like I said, I visited those places when I was over there in London. We went into the area there, what was called the Middle Temple. And for the Queen of England to enter that establishment, she had to get permission from the mayor of the City of London. And the Queen of England bows to the mayor. Does that give you an idea? See what I mean? And so we had this history going on there in England, Great Britain, and so forth. And so they had to find different ways, to work with them. They had to be able to deal with them. So what Avery's pointing out here is that because the law of merchant law was private custom and practice, it could not be enforced in the domestic courts. The merchants have their own court. And and could the merchant court in the City of London find against the Queen of England if they wanted to and enforce it? Oh, hell yeah. That's why the Queen bows to him. Anyway, let's see. And the reason was that it was not immediately founded in hard money, but only upon what are generally called negotiable instruments. Indeed, as long as individual countries preserve their national monies in hard coin, commercial practice and commercial paper could not demand hearing in the courts in an action for debt it's actually called debitus in assumption. All right. Now, so we got this problem going on, see? And that is, we got this law merchant out here that's completely independent, and they're using negotiable instruments. And then the nation is using hard money. They actually have coin of the realm, gold, silver, or whatever. All right. So how did they wiggle their way into the hard money situation? How did the law merchant invade hard money? Federal Reserve System.
Say that again, one more time.
The Federal Reserve System.
No, the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. Say the whole thing again, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, let me say it differently.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did law merchant negotiable instrument technology invade the hard money countries who were operating with gold and silver? Let me state it different. Instead of saying the Federal Reserve, let me say central banking system.
Yeah, okay. I think that helps. Central banking.
Central banking. Yeah. Central banks are all private banks.
Yep.
But then they negotiate with the countries so that the central bank can control the currency and the issuance of currency. Just like they did right here in our very own country.
So what happened with just so we can get a better idea of this, what happened with the Zimbabwe money that's supposed to be part of this exchange? That was not was that controlled by the Federal Reserve? Because I think that was done deliberately to be a bond in order to be part. I thought that's what it was.
Well, there's quite a history with Zimbabwe, and I don't think I know very much of that history. Okay. But I do know that because they're so mineral wealthy,
right,
that everybody was trying to get control of it.
Yeah.
The United States, China, everybody was trying to control Zimbabwe. And so the issuance of those bonds, those Zimbabwe bonds, was instrumental in trying to take control. But now they're going to redeem them. And what are they going to redeem them in? All right. I don't know if I'll get into all this. Listen, let me explain to folks. What we're going into is not a perfect system. It's an interim step.
Okay, got it.
And that's why I'm trying to emphasize it's so important to understand the concepts of money.
Where we've been, so we don't repeat it.
Because you have been mind controlled for all of your life in regards to money. You've been mind controlled. Now, how are you going to break out of the mind control so that you can go into something hopefully better? You're going to have to break the mind control. You're going to have to change your practices. You're going to have to change how you do things. And, for instance, like I say, on that one interview we did, I was trying to encourage people to learn how to do barter,
Right.
trade your labor, exchange, quid pro quo. See, and again, because we have suffered under this mind control for so long, it's going to be the dickens to break people out of it.
Right.
And perhaps with this opening of this Lionsgate portal, we're going to have a little bit of change of heart about it. And I hope so.
Mm.
And I hope so. We can't continue, doing as we have done and expect anything better. I'm not simply going to trade one tyranny for another tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to do it. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So how do we avoid a new tyranny? Don't let it happen again the way it happened. And if you don't know how it happened, you don't know what to do to stop it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Winston.
And
No,
so
and we're grateful for this.
why do we have these educational country roads,
Mm-hmm.
programs and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to break people out of mind control.
Right.
Like I say, we have a good chuckle and everything once in a while, but listen, folks, this is serious. This is deadly serious to you and your family.
Absolutely.
You need to understand what has happened, what is happening. We're not dragging this damn karma over into the new system, and don't you dare try to drag it over there. If you do, you're going to meet with serious opposition. Do not try to drag the old, dirty, filthy karma into the new system. We're not putting up with it. And you're not ascending, as you suppose, into anything if you think you're going to drag the same old crap with you. It ain't going to happen. So I mean, that's kind of a I hate to
get
get
riled up.
hard.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate
you
to get
have to.
hard about things.
Well, Winston, it's just that on a very different level how serious this is, and people
Yeah,
are just learning about it. They just don't understand, and you do need to impress upon people the gravity of this, and
yeah,
that we cannot continue in it. We should not and cannot repeat it, which means we
no,
can't bring that karma into the new
mm-mm,
system, like you're saying.
no,
So,
no.
it's complicated stuff though. People, you're right, it's going to be hard to get out of the mind control. It's going to be hard to get people to understand these concepts that there's even thoughts that they're not familiar with. People just aren't familiar with when it comes to thinking about the courts this way, about money this way, about thinking about money in a completely different way. But that's what Country Roads is here for, and we're trying to do that. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to
just
shift
take
around
some
to get
time.
out of that sunlight.
Yeah, I know you had
Yeah,
the
well,
times.
like I say, I try to have a good heart and try to give people hope and everything. But sometimes you just got to get out the scrub brush and a little bit of grandma's lye soap and go to work.
Hmm.
And it's going to take a little bit of scrubbing for all of us to get past the dirt and filth that we have accepted over the years.
Hmm.
But that scrubbing it got to come, because we will not be allowed to drag the old dirty filthy karma with us as we go into a global reset.
All right.
You're not dragging it with you. So like I say, I mean, we've been used to doing things a certain way,
Yeah.
and as it turns out, those ways were improper, immoral, wrong, or whatever. We have to change,
Well,
and that's all I'm saying.
it's
You
difficult
know,
for people who
yeah,
are like the worker bees. These concepts of commerce and equity just aren't things that they're even familiar with. They've lived their whole life basically without some
yeah,
of these concepts, and especially if you've been on, the side of just always being a worker and not, really being in the business world, in commerce and trade like that, it a lot, it's very foreign to most of us. So it does take, quite a getting used to cognitively just shifting this paradigm in our mind about how to think about money and law and commerce and all this a little bit differently.
Yeah,
But
that's why one of
but
these,
they're
I think either this last time, the time before, we had talked about those commercial maxims
right.
and showed how they had come directly out of the King James Version.
Yep.
Again, not to promote
Significant.
religion or King James Version or anything else, but these are the concepts. This is the morality that we should at least attain to, in our commercial transactions. Now, is that the end to end all? It's not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cannot at least arrive at the ethical, moral level that's portrayed in King James Version, you ain't going nowhere else, folks. You ain't going anywhere else. You're going to get stuck in the same filth that we've been stuck in for so long. So what I was trying to do was to encourage people, evaluate the concepts in those commercial maxims, relate them to the things in the King James Version. And if you're not at that level already, try to raise yourself to at least the moral ethic that you find in King James, because you ain't going anywhere else until you can at least qualify yourself with those simple principles. That's all, folks. And so again, I'm not trying to promote Christianity or anything else, but what I'm trying to say is that you can't ascend, you can't go into another dimension, you can't do anything if your moral ethic in regards to your interrelationship with other people is not at least at this level, which I'm calling King James Version level. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you can attain to that level of competency in your commerce, in your relationships with other people, the possibility then comes that you can start to move up. That's my point. I'm not being critical of people. I'm simply saying, if this is where you want to go, you at least have to get here. You can't get up to if you're going up the stairs, you can't get to the top step until you've taken all the other steps. Unless you got, pretty good legs, can jump that high. Most of us don't. So you have to take it one step at a time. And what I'm suggesting is that the step that's called King James commercial maxim step is essential if you want to take another step, another step, another step. It's only common sense. I'm not really a very smart person, but I know how to walk up a stairs.
Yeah. Well, no, you're pretty smart, Winston. You're far out, man, let me tell you. And one of the things I was thinking as you were talking was that maybe might think about doing like a live stream so we could take actual like live chat questions or something, like maybe once a month or maybe once every other month or something like that. I don't know if you want to do that, but
well, if we do that, matter of fact, we have a webinar coming up that is live chat. That's not live chat. The particular subject matter we're going to go over on this webinar is what's called, getting to the point where you can do quiet title on property. And for those that would want to participate with that, you can go to our website. It's advertised on the website. Oh. I forgot exactly when it's going to be, but it's coming up here a couple, 2 or 3 weekends. It'll be on a Saturday. Basically, when we do a webinar, it'll be like a 2-hour webinar, so it's not too long for people. Mm-hmm. So you can sit at home and participate. And so then it'll be on Zoom, the webinar. And then, I'll give certain presentations, and then we'll have a pause, and people can send in questions all along. And so then for about, I don't know, about an hour or so, I'll be talking about different things, and then people be sending their questions in, and then we'll take a short break, and I'll evaluate the questions, the ones that can be answered, quickly and so forth. And then when we come back up, I'll be answering, those specific questions that people. So we do webinars and stuff. If people would want to interact in some of these things,
Oh,
the
very
webinars,
good.
yeah,
Very good. Now that's on uh, WSSIC.com.
yeah.
That's
Just go to
Winston
the
Shrout.
website. It'll be announced. Uh,
Hmm.
well, we have announced it already to all of our email people and stuff.
Right, right.
But for those who would like to participate in that webinar, basically
Hmm.
people keep talking about, how can I secure my property, about all this, that, and the other, and so hopefully people could get to the point where they could get a quiet title from a court, which would erase any other claim and remove any cloud on property.
Ah.
And so, the things we've talked about as solutions in commerce in regards to mortgages, deeds of trust, all these kind of things, and the information in the DVD reclaiming your status and assets in regards to property.
Hmm.
All these things will be referred to as a lead up to a suit for quiet title. You see, you can't just go sue for quiet title if you haven't done the preparation for it.
Well, this is graduate level work. I mean, this is what I try to tell people is that
I guess it
it
is.
is because you have to kind of have 101 before you take 102. You can't like
Mm-hmm.
go to a 200 level course if you haven't done a 100 level course. It really is education, and it's built and designed to be presented a certain way to get a basic preliminary uh, uh, understanding, and then you build on that. It's about building on it, and you're a carpenter and you build, and that's what you do, and you build your information in a way that forms a structure. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what you do,
Mm-hmm.
Winston. And
Yeah, I
you
do.
can't have a second floor without a foundation. You can't have a first floor without a foundation. It has to be done. So I didn't know that, or at least I didn't remember it. I didn't realize that you. Now that I think about it, I remember that you used to do them on another program or something like that. I'm not sure if you now you're doing it on Zoom. So I didn't realize that, but I'm glad that our viewers know about that because there's always people with questions. So
Yeah. Again, if you just go to the website, it's advertised. It'll be on a Saturday.
yeah.
We usually do them like maybe I can't remember exactly the time. It'll probably be like at 10 o'clock Pacific time,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and it'll go for approximately 2 hours. We try to cut it off, so it don't go on forever and ever.
Excellent.
But we zoom in.
Yeah, you do.
We zoom in on
Yeah.
specific topics, that people
Uh-huh.
have been wanting information on,
That's great.
and then we will record it
Mhm.
and make a DVD available uh,
Excellent.
after the webinar. It might take 2 or 3 weeks to get that available, but like I say, we're just trying to find solutions for people, and this question of quiet title
Hmm.
keeps coming up all the time because people can't resell even after they've done all the things that we've talked about. They can't resell their property because there's cloud on title. So the purpose of quiet title is for a judge to disallow any other claim
Hmm.
on that title. That's what quiet title is. And so, a lot of people have done a lot of the different processes we've suggested over the years.
Hmm.
But then it comes to the point, well, we'd like to sell our property and go someplace else, but they can't sell it because there's too much clout on it. So we're looking to show how to get to the point where a judge could declare and give out an order that would be recorded for quiet title. And then ever after that, then if you wanted to sell your property,
Hmm.
anybody that would do a title search
Hmm.
on that property, the first thing they would hit would be that court order for quiet title. Bang. No more cloud. Now you can go sell your property. See what I mean? So that's going to be the subject of that webinar. Again, for those who might be interested in that, go in the, check out the website to get the particulars. You can sign up,
Very good.
right on the website and everything. Or if you do have some questions about it, you can call the office and talk to Melissa, and she'll get you straightened out on it. But these in the past have been very successful. I mean, you can stay at home.
Mhm.
You know, you can eat popcorn, drink soda pop, you know, while I'm yammering. And then if you want to, you can type in, you know, questions and stuff, send them. And then, you know, I'll take a break and I'll look at all these questions. You know, some of them are applicable and some of them are not. And so some of them I just would have to go back and answer them on email.
So,
But for the ones that are pertinent to the subject, you know, then I can answer them live
okay, very
right
good.
on the spot.
It's excellent, Winston. I'm really glad this came up because I was guided to bring that up.
You were guided?
Yes, I'm always guided. Are you kidding? I
Well,
don't think of this stuff on my own. No,
well, good. Well,
I'm
let's go
kidding.
back.
I'm kidding. So, no, I mean, quiet title is something you need to do to resolve cloud, though. Would there be any other reason to do quiet title? And if there's an answer to that question, then you should go to that webinar and find out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. So that's very good, Winston. Thank you. Well, let's move on and continue. So we're talking about the central banking system and that how it controls the currency and issuing of the currencies of the different countries.
Yeah, let's kind of wrap this up. I had other
Okay.
information I wanted to bring up, but I won't have time. Uh, but what I recommend again is go to the website, look at our product section,
Yeah.
and there's a DVD from I don't know how much it costs. Probably probably $100 or something. I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's something I recorded
Mm-hmm.
some years ago to show you the difference between money of exchange versus money of account, so people understand what money is. Then we go into private money and public money and all those different things to help people through some of these things.
Okay.
See, for instance, you really can't understand accepted for value if you don't know the difference between the money. You really can't.
Well, that's what they talk about when you say acceptance, and they're talking about,
Yeah.
yeah, talking
Acceptance is
acceptance.
simply banker's acceptance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been around since the 1800s. We just taken it to a different level with acceptance for value. But you know, can you conceptualize of what makes acceptance for value work if you don't know what money is? It would be
Well,
helpful if you did know.
right, but they, you know what? It's very frustrating because they've kept this information from us. I mean, it was
Yeah.
not, we should have known what system we were getting into and how it worked. This is what the education system is supposed to do. You know, they teach you how to write checks. They don't tell you what it means when you do that, though. And that
No, they
you're,
don't.
yeah, that you're actually engaging, kind of entering into contract with them when you do, when you put your signature on that check. Yeah.
Yeah. We won't get into that. Anyway,
No.
let's go a little bit further. What Avery's got here, like I say, you can find this easily on the internet. I don't need to post it for you, but you know, read the whole book. I mean, this is just, you know, 2 or 3 pages out of what he put in there, but it's an important part.
Hmm.
And so, anyway, you just give them a little bit of history of how the merchants had invaded hard money. And in particular, I gave you the example of the central banks, which are private banks. They're stockholder-owned banks, all that kind of stuff, but they have intruded and persuaded countries to allow them to regulate, you know, their hard money by the introduction of negotiable instruments. That's exactly what happened in this country in 1913, 1933, up to the present time.
Hmm.
That's what we're fixing to correct. That's what we're fixing to correct. Because you remember, you know, I've told the story several times about us doing that commercial lien back in 2012 against the Federal Reserve banks.
Right. And that stopped them from being able to reissue their charter,
Yeah.
which is
So
what,
so now
which is
now
allowed them.
the last news is that Trump's going to take over the Federal Reserve Bank. So okay.
Well, as a CEO, the Federal Reserve, he's just, you know, doing a bankruptcy on it, liquidation.
Well, yeah, he needs to take it over and then get rid of them.
Right.
We don't need central banks.
I'm sure he will. He knows how to do it.
He might not. He needs to call me though if he don't. You know, honestly, you know, I'm not being egotistical, but when I see all these things happen politically, you know, and I keep thinking,
Right.
oh man, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Or why, you know, should they do this or should they do that? You know, and I keep
Right.
thinking, well, them guys really ought to call me because I see right now where they're headed.
Mm.
And it's not that I'm the brightest bulb, in the bunch, but when I see things that are obviously leading to expectations that we really don't want,
Yeah, I understand.
I really like to have some input into that. I really would.
Well, he should have the best minds working on this. He should contact you, and because, like you said, uh, you can maybe foresee pitfalls that could be unintended consequences. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of a slash and burn kind of guy. I'm not political.
Mhm.
The word political means polite. That's where the word comes from. Political is polite. And who are polite? Gentlemen. I'm not a gentleman. I'm a hillbilly.
Mhm. An ascended master, grand master
And the Grand Master.
of the ascended
But
hillbillies, no less.
but again, when you get out of the billionaire club,
Mhm.
and Trump is a member of the billionaire club, if you want to call it that,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you get down to the hillbilly level of just plain old practical people, then it's a world of difference. It's different the way you look at things. And so, when the fox is in the hen house, you don't go up and politely say, please come out of the hen house and don't kill any more hens. You shoot the damn thing.
Mhm. You're not talking about Trump here.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
plain old hillbilly logic.
Yeah.
When the fox is in the hen house, you don't ask it to come out. You go in there and shoot it because you know what a fox will do.
Hmm.
If you ask it to come out, it's going to kill 2 or 3 more hens before you can get it out.
Okay, as long as people understand you're not making an analogy to talk about shooting Trump and calling him the
No,
fox. Yeah.
well, hell no. I'm just saying
Okay,
that
I know. I wanted to clarify that for the viewers because I wanted to make sure.
politics will go on forever and ever
Uh-huh.
because people think they need to be polite. And so, there's good reason,
Mm-hmm.
for being polite in certain circumstances and stuff. But when a situation becomes desperate,
Hmm.
when poor people are dying,
Hmm.
when poor people are being cast out of their house,
Yeah.
when poor people don't have the necessities of life, it's time to get that fox out of the hen house. And so when you
Got it.
take over the Federal Reserve, the first thing you should do is get rid of it. They're not chartered. So anyway, like I say, no, I'm not. You know, I'm just trying to be practical.
Hmm.
I mean, when a situation becomes desperate, when people are dying, politics have got no business. Politics needs to come to an end.
Yeah.
Need to stop being polite and start taking action. Like I say, a lot of commentators I listen to on the internet are complaining. Yeah, you got 40,000 sealed indictments out here. How about going out and arresting some of these crooks and criminals? Get the fox out of the hen house, for crying out loud.
Mm.
And Avery's information here about how they're doing this, it's the courts. It's the courts that are doing this to people. Because when the court makes a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, they can call on the sheriff, they can call on the U.S. Marshals to pull out their guns and enforce it. How does that work out?
That's tyranny.
When you're trying to convert commercial
Yeah.
paper into specie,
That's tyranny. Yeah.
well, the sheriff comes along and puts a gun to your head and say, "Okay, pay up or else." I mean, we've seen the stories of Robin Hood, for crying out loud, and the sheriff of Nottingham and all the stuff he did. I like that movie. So how many modern day Robin Hoods do we have? Not enough, apparently. But again, when the fox is in the hen house, when things are desperate, when people are dying and suffering. See, when I got that commission from Dr. Ray C. Dam, he told me, get back to the United States and get that foreclosure problem solved. He said, we can't have this. And he is an honorable man. His moral ethic is so high. And so he was concerned about what was happening in the United States with these mortgage foreclosures. And he told me, you'll get back over there and get that solved. Apparently, he had confidence in me that I could. And so I go back and I try to resolve it in the best way I possibly can. So guess who attacks me for trying to resolve the problem? Federal government. They say, no, 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 no. We don't want you doing that. Because why? Because the mortgage foreclosure program is what was funding the secret space program and the CIA. So when I come along and start to try to resolve the foreclosure problem, I'm fixing to kill their cash cow. And they couldn't let that happen. And so, like I say, I get a little bit upset, when a grassroots hillbilly is trying to save lives, trying to keep people in their homes, trying to keep the banks from stealing from the people. And then I get prosecuted for that. Give me a break. Give me a break, And so anyway, I don't want to go over all that, but I just wanted to maybe look at, a little bit more of this. Again, this is, then he goes into, how equity itself has been manipulated. Okay, equity, again, as we have pointed out, deals with conscience. In other words, what ought to be. Now, your conscience, operates on whatever moral ethic that you have adopted into your life. If your morals are low, if your ethics are low, then your conscience and your use of equity is going to be low. And that's what Ayn Rand put that article out about. What is your moral ethic? Is it high enough to accomplish good things? That's the question. Because everybody's conscience is not the same. And equity deals in conscience, and some of these invaders, as it were simply using equity to accomplish this dispatch of merchants. Obviously, those who promoted that using equity, their moral conscience was low, their ethics weren't for nothing. And so, we need to do a self-evaluation, self-realization.
Well, some people have no conscience, so there you have it. And I think most of them don't.
Well, I would suggest people go back and review that interview we did with that pilgrim. She said, as a result of the introspection and so forth, it tends to cause a person to take full self-responsibility when you're walking out across nowhere with nothing but a pack on your back. Who is responsible for you? It's just between you and God.
Right.
And that's what she learned. Now, when we start to talk about our pilgrimage through life, through commerce, through the banks, through all these kind of things, what level of responsibility do I take in myself? Am I going to be responsible for my actions or not?
Right.
And people try to avoid that. See, this is what's been mind controlled on people when we start to talk about limited liability.
Yeah.
Limited liabilities in the public. That's why I've tried to divide that line so that people would see the difference between the public and the private, because on the private side, it's about full responsibility, just like what this pilgrim was talking about. Walking out across nowhere, Spain, with nothing but a pack on your back, it's between you and God. It's just between you and God. See, a pilgrimage is not about limited liability. A pilgrimage is about full responsibility for yourself. And so, the dilemma that's caused between having to come out of the private and operate in the public over here. That's what Solutions in Commerce has been about, is to try to show you that. Okay, so that we don't use the pollution of limited liability in the public. We don't allow that pollution to seep over into the private. We can't have that. We can't have it. And so this educational stuff, that we talk about here, from time to time. We bring up different issues, like Bill Avery and the different ones. Is ever so important. Is ever so important because when you leave this planet, when you leave here, and we talk about karma and all this kind of stuff, but when you leave here, you're going into full liability.
Oh yeah.
Full liability. And you just go ahead and try to make some, pardon my expression, just go ahead and try to make some dumbass excuse. It don't work there.
Nope.
It only works here where people have polluted with limited liability, from the public perspective. And so at Solutions in Commerce, what I've tried to do is show people how to solve some of those problems on the public side by using the concepts and principles that we find over here on the private side. That's what I've tried to do. And some people have taken those things, and I think it's probably been, a great help to them,
Right.
And so that's where my heart is in helping people resolve some of the problems they have so they can have a much more full and rich life. That's all I'm doing. I mean, if you want to become a hillbilly, I can teach you how to do that. But you're not going to be a hillbilly until you can get rid of all this public politics.
Right.
And like I say, man, when the hillbilly gets up in the middle of the night because, the chickens are going off like crazy, and he goes out and finds, there's a fox in the hen house, hillbillies know how to deal with it.
There you have it.
Yeah, we kind of run up on time and everything. I don't want to belabor the point. And I had other information I wanted to give. And basically, the information I wanted to give is in that single topic DVD, Money of Exchange, Money of Account, that you can find.
Right.
I would encourage people to get that and study it and show it to your friends. Because when we start going into a global reset, like I said, you're not dragging the old crap with you. It's not going to be allowed. You're not dragging that old crap with you. So get it out of your brain, get it out of your mind.
How do you stop people from hijacking the new system, Winston?
Well, I think perhaps the ETs and the ascended masters are going to see to it that don't happen.
Okay, good.
So like I say, Saint Germain is a loving and kind individual, but I would suggest not getting crossways with him.
Good.
Like I say, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I got a message, basically said, no one will be allowed to stand in the way of this. Anyone who gets in the way will be removed. All right. So, I mean, that's coming from an ascended master who's known for his kindness and gentleness and all those kind of things. So that's why I say don't get crossways. Right. Don't get crossways with somebody like that. And Mother Mary's here, like, I don't know, several months ago, James Gilliland told me that the Mother Mary had been around quite a bit, and she was upset. And he said she's carrying a great big ball bat. Yeah. So there's another one you don't want to get crossways with. So again, like I say, we try to bring as many points as we can to people to assist them and help them. Like I say, praying and meditating, for ascension is a part of it, but it's not all of it.
Exactly.
You gotta roll up your sleeves. You got to get out grandma's lye soap and the scrub brush, and you got to go to work on things. Because we simply can't go. We simply can't. We will not be allowed to drag this garbage and filth with us into the new reset. Yeah, won't happen.
This money system has been the one thing that's really kept us extremely ignorant of our impact that we have in the world, on ourselves, on our families, and to each other. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Absolutely the heart of the problem, Winston. And we're very, very, very grateful for your wisdom always, every week that we do our reports.
Well, like I say, sometimes, I feel like I have to talk pretty hard. That's not in my nature to do that. But when the occasion arises and when we need to make emphasis on some things,
right,
I am capable of hard talking. And so, I apologize if it offends anybody. But basically, too bad.
Too bad. Hey, sometimes you have to tell it like it is. I understand that because sometimes only time people listen is when they kind of get hit over the head with a bat. So, I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Hey,
figuratively.
I've got a few lumps on my head from getting hit in the head with a
I
ball
know.
bat too, so I know what that's like.
Yeah, a few lumps. I got a flat spot because it's I kind of pounded it too many times. Okay, so well, Winston, thank you so much. I'm sorry we ran short on time today, but we really had to emphasize these points. We'll be back. I'm sure we'll be able to talk about these topics a little bit more in the future. And, until we get all of the archives up and folks, this is what happens. YouTube deleted our channel and these are the damages. It takes time to get these things restored because of the amount of expense it is now to duplicate everything twice. Well, 3 times, once the original that was deleted, and now 2 more times on an archive for YouTube and one on BitChute, so that we have the backup. So it's these are real damages that we suffer as a result of what YouTube did, and you are experiencing it with us, and that's why it takes time to get it done, and YouTube shouldn't be doing things like that. They're shadow banning sites as well, particularly conservatives. So the president tweeted about that, I think just yesterday. So there is a nice little app though. If you go to our Twitter page, you can type in, if you're another one of the YouTubers out there, there's there's an app that's on that I tweeted yesterday or the day before, where you can actually put in your call, your call sign, your, like ours is at Report Goldfish on Twitter. That's our handle. You can put yours in and find out if you're being shadow banned, and they'll tell you. And I did put ours in, and we weren't at that point because we're not quite as big on Twitter as we are on Facebook and YouTube or uh, WordPress or the other venues that we're on, but we're getting there, and we I guess haven't hit the alarm bells yet, but on Twitter, and hopefully we won't. But you can go there and look up and find out if you're being shadow banned. So I thought that was a really helpful app that came across my news feed. So Winston, thank you so much. This was, again, important. And until those archives are up, I'm glad you can revisit these topics and talk about it and really educate people, because that's what you do. You're an educator. And I do appreciate this
Well,
incredible knowledge.
on behalf of myself or on behalf of the other people that view this, we need to thank you because you're doing things, with what you do with your technology and all these kind of things. I can't do that. I mean, I don't know how to do it. I mean, I could probably if I knew how. I don't know how. But you're making the effort. You're taking the time. You're taking the hits, and you're getting blasted, with all these energies and everything. Hey, listen, our prayers are with you. Keep it up. Be careful about sleeping on that day bed at first. But so anyway,
Well,
anyway,
thanks. Appreciate
we
that.
yeah, we thank you.
My heart's in this in the same place as yours, and I want to get this information and real education out to people. This is not indoctrination. This is a real education, and this is really something that will just benefit your life and your quality of life. And it's also something to look forward to. It's something to know that we can free ourselves from this debt slavery system, but we can't do it if we don't understand that how the debt slavery system happened, how the whole thing got hijacked, and how the whole thing was, you know, uh, the conspiracy, or I should say the collusion, to really defraud us of the collusion of tyranny. So I'm sure there's a lot of good judges. I'm sure there's wonderful judges. I'm sure there's really good people who are attorneys who maybe aren't divorce attorneys. But there's, there's a good people out there, and I'm not trying to disparage everybody by any means. But the sad part about it is that the system is set up and stacked against us, and this is how it is stacked up against us. So we have to recognize that. And as Winston's bringing this information to our attention, how else are we going to learn that? Because I don't see a lot of people running around doing all the legwork Winston did and putting their own DVDs together to try to help people. So let's study this material, go over it and over it, and even I need to as well. I'm very busy doing many things. So just like you, I have time squeezing in really studying things and getting things done myself. And Winston knows that. So it's just, everyone has to make the time. and do it for themselves. Because Winston can't do it for everybody. He can give you the knowledge, but you have to go the next step. So we're all doing what we can do. And viewers are staying with us. And remember to please go to our website at www.thegoldfishreport.com and access the the official Goldfish Report sites. And that's the only way you're going to know that you're on an official site and not on an imposter site who is trying to defraud our viewers. Your funds, if you had gone to that site, did not come to the Goldfish Report. So I do think that this person owes you a refund. But that's to each of you individually. It's up to each of you individually to do that. So if you report the videos, you might very well be blocking us. So just report the channel, the fake channel, because the videos may be banned and prevented from being uploaded in the first place. So be very careful about that. I said people can copy and download the videos. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're going to hijack our channel and our identity and our logo, then we have problems. And so the problems are just beginning for you. And for the guy who copied our site and is posing as Goldfish Report and accepting donations, by saying that they're Goldfish Report, we're coming for you. Trust me, more ways than one. Once we have your IP address, it's all over, buddy. So,
There you go.
yeah, you can't hide anywhere on the internet. So you will be taken down eventually. So you can make good and just do it on your own and save yourself that embarrassment. Or you can do it, find out publicly, because I'm going to record everything that gets done. So, Winston, thank you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week for another edition of Country Roads, as usual. So appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, hopefully, like I say, we keep waiting and waiting for some of these good things to roll over. But I think we're getting pretty close on some of it. So we may have some good things to report, different than what we've reported in the past.
And speaking of different things to report, we have an interview coming up next week with a gentleman by the name of Fernando Vasa, he's a designer, an architect who has designed what he calls the Vasahedron, which is a bio home. He's designed these bio-friendly homes that are fantastic. The designs and everything are wonderful, and he's a really fascinating person, and I can't wait for all of you to meet him. And so look out for that interview. And of course, on Tuesday this week, actually, we're going to have our POTUS report. Monday, Jim will be traveling, so we'll do our POTUS report on Tuesday. So look out for that too. So we will see you next week, Winston, and have a great weekend. And to all of our viewers, please watch out for that fake channel, and hopefully we'll get that resolved soon. And we will see you all next time. So this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report.